Hey y'all, my name is Christian. I'm a millennial, and this is the Millennial Mind. Millennials get a bad rap for being lazy, non productive members of society. We also get told that our opinions are warped and don't matter. This podcast is designed to express a point of view on the world as a whole, but from a millennial's perspective. I will talk about love, current events, pretty much everything that comes to mind. Come join me on this journey on speaking my mind, and I would love for you to speak your mind as well. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of The Millennial Mind. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey of speaking my mind, and I hope that all of you are speaking your minds as well. This past few days have been a struggle for me, and I'm sure that it has been a struggle for a lot of my listeners out there. Why, you may ask? Because Chadwick Boseman, who was a well-known actor, passed away late last week at the age of 43 from colon cancer. First of all, when I saw the news, I broke down crying. I don't know why. I don't know why I broke down crying. It's not like I knew him personally, but just the news of it itself and knowing what Chadwick Boseman meant to a lot of people, especially people in the Black community, it just broke my heart. Also, he was very young and he died quite tragically, I would say. He had colon cancer. It was originally stage 3 and it progressed to stage 4. Now, this was even more shocking because the general public did not know about this. The general public did not know that he was struggling with cancer. And apparently, he's been struggling with this cancer since 2016. All of the movies that he has done since that time, 21 Bloods, Black Panther, Thurgood, pertaining to Thurgood Marshall, he was fighting for his life. And I believe that's what made the situation a lot sadder for me, because he was literally fighting for his life while still trying to put out amazing content for his fans to see. And that is just admirable. And then it's also sad as well, because I believe that he had a lot more content to put out. But who am I? Who am I to say when the person's time is to go? But apparently it was his time. So I really struggle with this. And I've known about Chadwick Boseman long before Black Panther, long before his contribution to Black Panther, I should say. I remember watching him as a teenager on this show called Lincoln Heights. If you're not familiar with the show, look it up. Look it up right now so that you can see what I'm talking about. But he was kind of getting his break, and I saw how good of an actor he was. And in my head, I'm thinking, I really hope that he gets the recognition that he deserves, because he is really good. After that, I saw him in 42, pertaining to Jackie Robinson, Get Up, pertaining to James Brown. I was like, yes, these are the roles that he needs to really showcase his abilities and his passion for his art. And people started to recognize him for that. And I was so happy that that was happening for him. But unfortunately, that was cut short. So I cried. And I'm sure a lot of other individuals cried as well. But I certainly cried over Chadwick. And it just really hurt me deeply. I do believe through his life and essentially through his death as well, I believe that there are lessons that can be learned from his life and his passing. And I've come up with 5 lessons that we could learn from Chadwick Boseman. And here we go. Let's get right into it. Lesson number 1 that we can learn from Chadwick Boseman is life is not promised. Like the Bible says, life is like a vapor. It's here one day and then it's gone the next. You just don't know what life will bring. I'm sure when Chadwick was growing up that he never thought that colon cancer would be the thing that would take him out, especially at the age of 43. I'm sure that when Chadwick Boseman was fighting said cancer, when he got diagnosed with this colon cancer, stage 3 initially and then stage 4 later, I'm sure that he still had that cognition that maybe this is something that I can beat. And that's showcased through the movies that he made despite his diagnosis, because he felt like that diagnosis could not bring him down, or he should not let it bring him down. So I'm sure he never thought that he would be passing at the age of 43. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe he did. That's a strong possibility. You know, God works in mysterious ways. I also believe that God will reveal to you when it is your time to go. So maybe Chadwick knew all along and said, hey, you know, I got to make the most of the years that I have here. I'm not sure. But nevertheless, life is just not promised. It's not promised to anyone. You're here today, gone tomorrow. And we've seen it over and over again. From Kobe to Chadwick, just life is just, it's fragile. You just never know. So because life is not promised, live your life the way you want to. Live your life for you. Don't depend on no one else for what you want in life. Don't live your life according to someone else's perspective or how they think you should live your life. You live it according to how you want to live it and make sure that it's bringing glory to God. And that's all you can do. That is all you can do. The second lesson that I learned is everyone is not entitled to your life, no matter how socially relevant you are. Now, Chadwick Boseman, he's always been a private person, very private. He seemed to be very introverted as well. But what was crazy about this entire thing was that, like I was saying before, the general public did not know that he was suffering with this colon cancer. He did not look it. He did not express it. And you know what? When I say look it, initially he didn't look like it. I remember seeing pictures of him later on that showed him to be more frail and skinny. But I still never thought that he had cancer. Despite the diagnosis and everything that he was going to, he kept that part private. And I believe he kept that part private is because he didn't want people to focus on the cancer itself and how it was eating away at him. I believe he wanted people to focus on the work of art, the last few pieces of art that he put out that would essentially impact the world. I think that's what he wanted us to focus on. So just because he was a celebrity and we feel like we're entitled to celebrities' lives and what they do every day and how they live their life, Essentially, we're not entitled to every part of their life, and that's okay. There are certain things that he wanted to keep private, and that's something that we should respect. Also, that's something that we should apply to our own lives. Not everyone is entitled to every part of your life. Because, of course, if everyone is entitled to every part of your life, they're going to have an opinion, unwarranted, or not. And sometimes those opinions can waver the way that you live your life, waver the way that you think about yourself. And that could essentially impact your decisions or what you do in the future. Chadwick knew that. He was like, no, I'm going to let the focus be on something else. And I believe that that's something that we should all implement in our lives. Don't let everyone have access to your life, have access to what you are doing. Like I was saying before, you live the life that you want to live, and whatever information that you want people to have or want people to know, that's what you give them. Any information that you don't want people to know or don't want people to have, you don't give it to them. And that's your prerogative. That's your choice. Okay, moving on along. The third lesson that I learned from Chadwick Boseman is that your inner circle should be your warriors. Woo! Now, this is what really got me, okay? Chadwick Boseman being diagnosed with cancer. If TMZ or some other news outlet would have obtained that news, that would have been a major payout, okay? Everybody would have wanted to know whether or not Chadwick Boseman had cancer. That would have been something that's on like headline news, okay? But his inner circle, his manager, his publicist, his wife, his parents, his siblings, his cousins, no one said nothing about what he was going through. No one. No one spilled anything. And usually with celebrities like this, there's always usually someone who's like running their mouth, whether it's a manager, family members, friends, etc. But Chadwick Boseman's circle was so tight that we did not know what he was going through until the day he passed. So his circle was a group of people that he could trust. How many of us can say that? How many of us can say that, oh, if I give my circle this information, I can trust that that information is not going to be given to the wrong person? That they're not going to try to use me or use this information that I've given them for their own personal gain? How many of us can say that? I don't think it's too many people. Me neither. I don't believe that my circle is that tight where I feel like no one would say anything or try to use this information against me for their own selfish gain. But the fact that Chadwick Boseman had this tight circle, this tight group of warriors that were concerned for him and concerned for his well-being, that they didn't even care about their own selfish gain, that is huge. And that is something that we should all strive for. I mean, we always have at least one friend or one family member who is always, they talk too much, okay? Chadwick did not have that at all. Everybody was just respected his wishes and respected what he wanted, and they didn't say anything until he passed. Whoo! Warriors for Chadwick. Okay? How many of us can say that? I'm telling you that this is something that we should really take inventory of our lives and look at our circle a little bit deeper and say, hey, are these, if I gave them information that could really be, a make or break, could I trust them to keep that information in order to protect me? We really need to take inventory. We really do. And you know what? You can take inventory during this next break from our sponsor. I'll be right back. This podcast is sponsored by Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. It gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, even on platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Once again, you can download the Anchor app, that's ANCHOR, or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey y'all, okay, we are back. Let's get into the last two lessons that we can definitely learn from Chadwick Boseman. The fourth lesson that we can learn is don't let your circumstances dictate how you are supposed to live your life. And I touched on this a little bit earlier. Chadwick Boseman wanted the focus to be on his work, not his condition, not his present physical circumstance. Though he was struggling with this disease that was eating at his body on a daily, I'm sure, the chemo that he was going through and the side effects that he had with it, the pain that he probably had, he still decided to participate in these movies that, stretched during the whole time that he was battling this disease. He didn't want the focus to be on his cancer. He wanted it to be on the movies. He wanted the focus to be on the movies that he was putting out. And that's something that we should definitely learn from. Everyone is going through something. Everyone has gone through something. How long do we use that as an excuse to stop us from doing what God has called us to do and stop us from fulfilling our destiny? There are so many actors out there, doctors, lawyers, teachers, electricians, plumbers, etc. The list goes on and on and on. But their destiny has been wavered because they're letting their circumstances affect the way that they live their life. I know that you were hurt. I know that daddy wasn't there. I know mama wasn't there. I know that you were abused as a child. I know that you were abused as an adult. The list goes on and on and on. But how long do we let that affect how we're supposed to live our life? Chadwick didn't. Chadwick was going through a terminal disease and still decided to obtain these acting roles that would impact society. And these acting roles weren't they weren't no easy roles, okay? They were really hard and required a lot of energy. And I'm not sure where he got this energy from. It had to be supernatural. Because I can imagine when you're obtaining chemotherapy, that energy is being zapped. But for him to do these roles and obtain this supernatural energy in order to make these roles better and make the roles as we know them to be today, that was nothing but God. And that was determination and motivation not to let his present circumstances dictate to him how he's supposed to live his life. He could have very well said, oh, I have cancer. I am suffering right now. Let me just lay here and die. He could have very well said that. But no, he said, okay, I have this disease. What I'm not going to do is sit here and feel sorry for myself and not do what God has called me to do. As long as God has given me the energy to do what I need to do, I'm going to do it. And that is I admire Chadwick for that. And that's just a lesson to us all. Do not let your circumstances dictate how you are supposed to live your life. You overcome. We are overcomers. We are natural overcomers, I believe. And Chadwick was a perfect example of that. The last lesson that I believe that we can learn from Chadwick Boseman is that the things that you choose to do in life should be meaningful and impactful. If you look at the roles that Chadwick Boseman participated in, they had some kind of meaning to it. It wasn't no ordinary role. What I mean by that is that Chadwick Boseman, you never saw him, from what I can remember, for the most part, you never saw him playing some kind of drug dealer or some kind of like baby boy, I'll say, someone who was just, they weren't doing anything with their lives. The roles that Chadwick Boseman played, Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall, Black Panther, to name a few, they were impactful roles. They meant something. These roles displayed powerful individuals who had confidence in themselves, individuals who were intelligent, individuals who had value. Those are the roles that he played. You never saw him doing something outside of that. So I believe he purposefully chose these roles because that's the roles that he felt like would have some kind of impact on this role, or impact on this world rather, and roles that will be meaningful for him. How many of us are doing that? Let's just think of the decisions that we have made over the past week or so. Have these decisions that we made, have they been meaningful? Have they been impactful? Have they been meaningful and impactful to our lives? Have they been meaningful and impactful to the lives of others? If not, we need to reset our priorities. We need to change our perspective. That's how we should be living our life. It shouldn't just be about us. Every time we make a decision, every time we do something in our lives, we should be thinking, is this meaningful? Is this going to impact someone else? Because our lives is not just about us. We're essentially, when we pass away, we're leaving a legacy. And that legacy, we certainly want that to impact someone else. We want our lives to be a representation of how other people should be. We want our lives to be so meaningful that they are impacting those around us. If we pass away and no one has anything good to say about us, no one has been impacted by our lives, then our lives were meaningless. Do you hear me? We need to live our lives in a way that impacts others positively, that leaves a legacy positively, that gives meaning to others positively. And if we can do that, I believe if you would pass away and your life had meaning to others and impacted others, I believe that people's reaction to your passing, even if they didn't know you, would be the same as with Chadwick. I believe it would. Because people are crying over him that didn't even personally know him. That means that he had an impact in people's lives. His life had meaning to others. And if our lives don't do that, if our passing doesn't produce that kind of result, what kind of lives are we living? I say we're not living one at all. So, what are your thoughts about Chadwick Boseman's passing? How has he impacted your life? Let us know. Let us know at mindofmillennials@gmail.com. You can send us an email. You can also share a comment on our Facebook or Instagram page. Our Facebook page is The Millennial Mind, and our Instagram page is _Millennial Mind. Please make sure to listen to previous episodes. They are available on Spotify, Anchor, Pocket Cast, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, which is new, and Google Podcasts. Okay, and make sure you subscribe and rate us and review, so that we could be more visible to other listeners who are listening to podcasts. And of course, I have a quote for you all, and this quote, of course, is from Chadwick Boseman, and this hit home, and I hope that it hits home for you. It says, "When I stand before God at the end of my life, I will hope not to have a single bit of talent left and could say, I used everything you gave me." Amen, Chadwick. Well, my condolences to Chadwick Boseman's family. I'm praying comfort and peace over his family and his friends and loved ones. And let's just make sure that we're living our lives that has meaning and is impacting others. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. And until next week, I will see you guys soon.